Hey again, everyone. We're continuing on with Pliny's letter to Tacitus. This is on Richard Lafleur's Latin, or Wheelock's Latin reader, page 261, and we're getting started at line 170, Nam Crebris. So, Nam Crebris vastisque tremoribus tecta nutabant et, quasi emota sedibus suis, nunc huc, nunc illuc, abire ad referi videbantur. Let's stop there. So, Nam, we've seen this before, just for. Crebris. You look this up in the dictionary, you'll find creber, crebra, crebrum. So you see here that we've got an er in the masculine, but then ra and then rum in the feminine and neuter. Really what this comes down to is this root that's just kreber. We have an R here, and if you want to pronounce that R without adding anything after it, you need to kind of put a dummy vowel in. That's what the R is, the E is there, but the real root of this that we're going to see is CREBR, and that's the root that goes through. So we have the same thing going on with the more common verb pulcher, beautiful. So pulcher, but then pulchra, pulchrum, because the real root behind all of this is just a pulcher. But if you're not going to say anything after it, you just kind of say pulcher, and you need to put that E in there in the masculine nominative. So enough about that. It's a first second declension adjective, and it means dense. So now for with dense and vast, wide, tremoribus. So dense here in terms of actually timing, that these are happening densely. You might think of a pregnant woman's contractions coming more densely in time as she's about to give birth. That's the sort of tremoribus that we're having. And I'm not sure if people are old enough to remember the kind of 80s fright movie Tremors, where there are worms underground that eat people, but this is tectonic activity. Tectonic, not said somewhat ironically, because we get tecta here, but we're not talking there about the earth at all. So let's go back here. So for, with dense and wide-ranging tremors, shakings, tecta. So this is coming ultimately, if you look it up in the dictionary, from tectum, tecti, neuter. This means roof, or kind of one section of the roof. It's related to the verb tego, and it means covering. So it's what covers a house. Tecta in the plural can actually just mean house, or in this case maybe the whole roof, the upper structure of the house. So this is neuter, plural, and it could be nominative or it could be accusative, but we need a nominative plural subject of nutabant to shiver, to quake. So this is going to be our subject, this is going to be our verb, and this is kind of an ablative of manner, saying, well, how's it quaking? With vast and increasingly frequent shakings. And as if emota sedibus suis, so, and as if, so we've seen quasi before, and we certainly use it in English. We'll want to make sure that's a long I in Latin, quasi, and this is the if that we're also used to seeing. And when you precede it with this long qua, you're saying as if. So as if emota, so again, this agrees with tecta, and this is from a plus moeo, to move, and this is the fourth principal part, motus. So if we have a motus, this gets us awful close to our English verb emotion, and indeed that's where we get the verb emotion from, something that moves you, that moves you out of the kind of, if we want to think of our soul as something very material, if we, and we can even keep this metaphor in other things. We say, oh, that's a moving piece of music because it moves your emotion. Relatedly, for the Greek studiers among you, hormones are things that, in the Greek, are things that move you. So when we talk about these aspects of the soul, which I think we now, with kind of brain analysis, and we know that chemicals are involved, we still have a kind of material aspect, but they really thought about these feelings that you'd have, your emotions, as things that moved within your body, which is kind of funny. But we're not talking about bodies and ancient medicine here, or psychology. We're talking about architecture. So we have here again neuter, plural, and it's going to be nominative, working with tekta, having been moved, that's what amota means, as if having been moved from their sedes. So sedes is our, I believe it's a feminine noun, don't quote me on that, but we've got seat, and this is then third conjugate, or third declension, and it's an I stem, but you don't really see that here. We just have the IBUS for any third declension noun. So having been moved, and this A, this removed from, is going to allow us to take a kind of ablative of separation here. Ablative of separation meaning kind of removed from their seats. It's the roofs are being jostled from the walls that are up. It's fairly terrifying. This is an earthquake in addition to an eruption. So the tremors are coming more densely, they are major, the roofs are shaking and as if moved from their seats, now here, now there, and remember that this uk ending means motion toward. So now they're moving toward here, now they're moving toward there, abire, to move away from, or referi, be brought back. So we have infinitives here, and we find out with videbantur, seemed, we're saying they're not really being removed from their seats, but they are swaying back and forth. So they seemed to be, so these are going to be complementary infinitives, working with a verb of seeming. That's what, seem to do something. This verb needs complementary infinitives to complete its meaning. That's why they're complementary. They fill it out. So to do this whole sentence, for the roof was shaking by means of or with the dense and wide tremors. So maybe this is a kind of means as well as manner. It depends on if we're talking about the roof actually the way it's shaking, or if we're talking about the ground shaking, which is causing the roof to shake. And as if having been removed from their own seats. And note that we can use suis here, this suis reflexive possessive pronoun, even when its subject isn't human. Our subject is tekta, but it still works with sedibus. So as if having been removed from their seats, that is the roof tiles, now in this direction, now in that direction, they seem to be, moved away from and then brought back. So we get this, kind of dizzying sway of the villa. Sub dio rursus quamquam levium excessorumque pumicum casus metuebantur, or batur, singular. Good. So sub dio, Lafleur helps us out here, under the divine element, that is the sky. Rursus, back again. Quamquam, Lafleur again helps us, says that we should take it with these adjectives. So what are these adjectives? Well, this is coming from levis lewe, which means light. And this is coming from, again, thank you, Lafleur. Sometimes he's actually very helpful. The verb excedere, which means to eat away. So this is having been eaten away and being light. Aurum, we can see pretty clearly that that's genitive plural, but what's levium? Well, it's coming from this third declension adjective, and it's going to be I stem because it's perisyllabic, levis, lewis. So this is ium, this ending means genitive plural as well, and that's useful because this que needs connect equals, and indeed here it's connecting these two genitive plural adjectives. So however light, that's how we want to translate quamquam, however light and porous, we might say, having been eaten through, this pumice stone was, and then pumicum, again if you know your dictionary entry, you know it's pumex, pumicus. So this is also, sorry, that should be an I, pumicus, a third conjugation, sorry, not a conjugation, declension noun. Those were this was the third declension adjective, this is the third declension noun. Note that because pumex is 2 syllables, 1, 2, and pumicus, 1, 2, 3, they're not equal in their number of syllables. We don't have an I stem here. There's no, it's not pumicium, it's just pumicum. So, however light and porous the pumice was, the casus, this is going to be our subject, the falling of it, of the pumice, metuebatur, was feared. So back again, under the sky, however light and eaten through the pumice was, its falling was still feared because it's hot, it's scary. Quod tamen periculorum collatio eleget. So Lafleur gives a kind of unhelpful note on this quote. Tamen we know is post-positive, it means nevertheless. And then we have the collatio, and this is from co plus fero. So fero, to carry, fere, tuli, and then latum as our fourth principal part. So the collatio is a kind of abstract feminine noun, so feminine nominative singular here, coming from co plus fero, which became confero. So this is what we get, conference from, to confer. What does this mean? Well, to carry together. And in this situation, you're carrying your different options together to, make a, and I think those of you who use Xerox copiers and things know about, collated copies. This is about putting everything together. So putting together of the dangers. Chose, elegit, quod. This is our direct object. And you say, Al, all right, that's great, but this is a relative pronoun, quod, so maybe it's referring back to something earlier, but I don't see any good neuters here. Pomex is not a neuter. And then we don't really have a main clause here, and then we've got this, at least Lafleur is providing a semicolon here. This doesn't look like a relative clause that we're used to, and that's right. This is what we often like to call a connecting relative. And what that connection is much like a Latin conjunction, something like et or sed. And let me show you how it works. So we have the collatio periculorum, the weighing together of dangers. Chose, quod, this. So, and why am I saying this here? Well, if we go back from the beginning of the sentence, under the sky, back again, the falling of the pumice stone, however light and eaten through it was being feared. Nevertheless, this, that is, going back under the sky with the pumice stone, the comparison of dangers chose as the best option. Yeah, it kind of stinks to go out and maybe get hit by flaming pumice stone, but it's better than dying, being suffocated here in the house because, it's like as if we're on a sinking ship. The water level, the ground level is rising. We're never going to get out of here if we don't brave the falling pumice. So this quote is the direct object. It's referring back to the kind of idea that's going on in the sentence before, and that's why it's neuter, because it's referring back to an idea. But sure, that's technically what's going on. In practice, we all just want to translate this as but, or and nevertheless. So that's why it becomes a connecting relative. It really functions as a conjunction, even though you can make an argument that it still needs to fit in as a direct object to the kind of grammar of this phrase that's part of collatia allegit quod, that which. And this was the whole situation. Cool. We'll wrap that up here, and we'll take it on. I guess we'll only have about 3 lines for the next one. See you then.